call this July 13, 2020 regular Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Anagnostou, would you take the roll?
Sure. Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ali?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes?
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Mrs. Hausum has a prior commitment and will not be with us tonight. Next on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is our district goals. We always remind ourselves that we have 3 goals that we base every decision on. That is student achievement, financial prudence, and community engagement. Public comment. I don't see any public comment, and I don't see anybody jumping up in the public. Next is approval of minutes. We have the June 18th and June 25th board meetings. All district video and audio recordings will be permanent part of the minutes, and they are available on the web. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? George, would you take the roll?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ali?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes, the motion carries. I now turn it over to Mr. Anagnostou for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Micko. The first 2 items for your consideration tonight are annual items. Although we're still trying to figure out what school looks like, this will give us the ability to get started if, when we go back to school, but this is the cafeteria change fund for both food service and for middle school athletics. We're, right now in the work groups, we're debating whether to go cashless or not. But in the event not, this will give us the ability to have our startup cash for the beginning of the school year. So, item A is cafeteria change fund. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the cafeteria change fund be established in the amounts of $800. These funds are used to establish startup funds for the school cafeterias. Item B, middle school athletic change fund. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the middle school change fund be established in the amount of $500. These funds are used to establish startup funds for middle school athletic events. Item C, which carries a separate vote. I'll read it, it's quite lengthy, but be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that a resolution be approved providing for the issue and sale of bonds in a maximum aggregate principal amount of $58,815,000 for the purpose of refunding at a lower interest cost certain of the school district's outstanding school improvement bonds, Series 2013, which were issued for the purpose of constructing, renovating, remodeling, rehabilitating, adding to, furnishing equipment, and otherwise improving buildings and facilities and preparing equipping and otherwise improving real estate and interest therein for school district purposes. Authorizing the call for the optional redemption of the refunded bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of a bond register agreement and bond purchase agreement with respect to the refunding bonds, and an escrow agreement with respect to the refunding of the refunding bonds, and authorization of completion, use, and distribution of official statement and all other necessary disclosure documents relating to here too. So in simple terms,
Let me take the motion and then we can have discussion.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. And now time for discussion, and we'll start with George.
Yep. So in simple terms, currently we have, so of the 2013 bond issue, the total was $81 million to build the middle school, renovate the high school, and do other construction projects throughout the district. In 2013, we issued $81 million. Currently, there is $69,235,000 outstanding. 2 years ago, we refunded a small portion of that amount. Now we have the opportunity, the rest of the bonds are have a call date in December, so we have an opportunity to refund, and refunding, it's a technical term for refinancing, $58,815,000 at a lower interest rate. We started this conversation and looking at if this was a possibility last July. When we were looking at this last July, our net present value savings were 5.7 million, or 9.75%. Currently, right now, as of June, if we were to close now, our net present value is 10.5 million, or 17.85. So I know the economy's been down, but in this situation, we have been benefited by waiting this year. Given this is just an estimate, or if we would stick with the timeline, there's certain processes we have to follow. One is doing an official statement, which we've been working on. The week of August 4th, we have a ratings meeting with Moody's to reaffirm. Well, one, we were going to try for an increase, but they've already come out and said they're not issuing any increases during this time. And a decrease is unlikely for us, as they just did a reconfirmation. So this is more in-depth call to kind of confirm our current rating. And then the week of August 10th, after Moody's releases their rating, we'll send our official statement to potential investors. The week of August 17th, we'll go to market and set the interest rate where investors will be looking to invest in these bonds. And then we'll close the week of September 7th, and then December 13th, December 1st, the bonds will be called. So that's kind of the timeline we're looking at. So the key date is that week of September 7th. So hopefully the interest rates don't move too much from where they are now, but either way, we're seeing a significant savings. So what that $10.5 million savings means, that $10.5 million savings will be realized over a period of 10 years or 20 years. The bonds are set to expire in 2045. So for these portions of the bonds, take out the ones that have already been refunded. It's over a 20-year period. So average about $500,000 per year. So that's $500,000 less in interest payments that we would have to make annually, meaning it's a direct savings to the taxpayer, because that's $500,000 less each year we would need to collect to pay the principal and interest. And we might not see the millage rate drop initially, but over time, as we'll accumulate this balance, there'll be less dollars that we would need to collect to pay off the debt. And about $500,000 equates to 0.3 mils, or $10.50 a year for a $100,000 house.
Any questions for George? So I just want to, compliment you. I mean, this is part of our financial prudence. We continue to do this whenever we can, whenever it makes sense to do that. $10, you said $10 per $100,000.
Right, per year.
It may not sound like a lot when we divvy it up, but I would rather our citizens and our taxpayers keep $10 million of interest than someone else.
Right.
So it may just be $10 per person, but in the aggregate for the entire city, it's over $10 million in savings, and that's a real dollar amount. And that's something that we can then earn that trust and go back to the city again, or the taxpayer again. So I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? George, would you take the roll?
Sure. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
and Mr. Miko.
Yes, and the motion carries.
All right, so the next item I have is the Strongsville Athletic Booster Club donations, the proceeds of the 2019 car raffle. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the donation in the amount of $22,056 be accepted from the Strongsville Athletic Booster Club from the proceeds of the 2019 car raffle.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Buckner Salee. Any discussion?
The one thing I wanted to add, the $22,056, that's 50% of the total proceeds. In total, it was doubled, less any expenses that they might have had. The other half goes to the athletic programs that participated in the raffle, which the money's kept at the Booster Club for those sports teams. And then this half goes to our turf fund, which is part of the 5-year agreement. So normally the Booster Club would be here to present the check, but during due to the pandemic and the shutdown, and we delayed having this on the agenda due to the timing.
So a number of thank yous are in order, and I'll try to start at the top. So the first thank you that's in order is from Mr. Serpentini and Serpentini Chevrolet, because the whole process starts when he donates a car to the district. Then we're going to thank the Booster Club, because they're the organization, or to use a trite phrase, they're the vehicle that lets us take that donation of a car and multiply it to have a bigger effect for our district. So we have that car raffle every year. The Booster Club does it. All the different student athletes, along with our music groups, et cetera, sell those car raffle tickets, and that's how we earn the money. So we have to thank the Booster Club for their sponsorship of it. We have to thank all the athletes for doing the selling. And most importantly, we have to thank the people who buy the tickets, because if nobody buys the tickets, none of this works out very well. But it's important to note that the district is receiving $22,056 that we are putting to the turf fund, so that turf remains taken care of and doesn't become a liability. But there's also a matching $22,056 that the athletic boosters have for the various teams and for the requirements and the things that they need to have a vibrant program. So we appreciate everybody doing what they do, because it lets us have the vibrant athletic program that we have. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, would you take the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
Mr. Miko,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item E, Ticket Spigot Ticketing and Registration Platform and Sponsorship Agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the board enters into a contract with Ticket Spigot LLC for ticketing services and online ticket management per the terms of the agreement found in Exhibit B. Be it further resolved that Strongsville High School shall promote Ticket Spigot as exclusive ticketing partner of Strongsville Athletics, and Ticket Spigot shall provide Strongsville Athletics with sponsorship payments per the sponsorship agreement found in Exhibit B. Just further discussion that I wanted to add for this item. So last year was our first year that we went with online tickets. We were using Eventbrite. What we found with Eventbrite was they're more of an event-type platform. We looked at other platforms throughout the year, and more focused in sports. And out of the ones we looked at, we really like Ticket Spigot's platform the best, and also just a few other bullet points for the benefit of Ticket Spigot. We'll receive a sponsorship, $1,000 up front, and $3,000 if we meet $10,000 online ticket sales sold via online. Their fees were the lowest that we looked at any other company. Account management system, anyone who buys tickets gets an online account similar to that of StubHub or Flash Seats, where the ticket holder can transfer the tickets once they are in their account, compared to Eventbrite, where we had to send the season tickets for football last year, and they were held whoever we sent them to, and they had to be there at the gate when whoever else came with them. And then paper tickets. Ticket Spigot will be our supplier for paper tickets when they're sold at the gates. So last year they were printing off the machine, which delayed. This year they won't be printing. We'll have that roll available to kind of speed up the lines if we're able to have spectators at the event. So I know it's kind of odd that we're doing it this time, but we had it ready to go. We've been researching it. I also have Denny here that could answer any additional questions if you like, but also Mr. Roberts played a role in this too during his background in professional sports, where he had the creative idea with the sponsorship where we were able to utilize Seth, and he had the idea with the $1,000 up front and the $3,000 if we meet the $10,000 tickets sold. So thank you, Seth, for your expertise in that area.
Seth, do you have any other comments you want to share?
Feels good to take that off. No, it was, I think Ticket Spigot allows us to have a lot of flexibility in how we not only sell tickets, but the events that we can put online to be able to sell, whether it be from an athletic standpoint or other performances, whether it be music or choir, in those areas too. So with that, and everybody's so used to just buying stuff on their phone, the ease of that's going to make the lines a lot less, hopefully, at a lot of the events, but also the ease of transferring to family and friends is going to make it a lot easier. So we're thankful for Denny's work on this and appreciate that, and also look forward to our partnership with Ticket Spigot.
I just want to, again, echo George's comments. Thank you for helping with this. This is, one of the reasons we try to have a balanced board with a lot of different, a variety of skill sets, and it's great that it was able to come to fruition so quickly. It does seem, it may seem a little bit ironic that we're doing ticketing when we're not exactly sure what kind of sports we're going to have, but I think it's, A, eventually we'll need it, and B, I think we'll need it sooner than later because it is, if we do it as an app, it's contactless, it's, there's not touching money, there's not exchange of those kinds of issues, so I think it may very well be more useful sooner than later. Next.
Next, item F, Under Armour Athletic Agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the board renews an agreement with Under Armour, whereas Strongsville High School shall exclusively purchase Under Armour products for its athletic teams, coaches, staff, and fans. Under Armour shall provide Strongsville High School with the product allotment valued at Under Armour's then current retail pricing per the agreement found in Exhibit C. The term of this agreement commences on 7/1/2020 and ends 6/30/2025 for a term of 5 years. And this is a renewal of our current contract, which was a 5-year contract that expired 6/30/2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Mrs. Salih by a hair. Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Salih. Any discussion? So I will thank Denny, and we'll get you up here on the next vote, so you can you only have to walk up once. But I'll thank him for his leadership. And this is also something that we thank our athletic boosters for, because ultimately a lot of the dollars for the uniforms, et cetera, that we buy with this contract is a booster club effort. So we thank them for that also. Any other discussion?
I think the couple things I just want to add was we'll receive the promo dollars. We'll receive $5,000 up front every year, and then we'll receive a $10,000 cash back for every dollar we spend over $35,000 as a district, including boosters as well.
Very good. And just as an example of how we use that money, if you come to our basketball games and you see T-shirts getting thrown into the stands, we're not using taxpayer money to buy those kinds of things. This kind of program provides us the ability to do those kinds of things. And if you've been to the basketball game and you see the little kids all excited to get a T-shirt, it's well worth it.
Anything else, Danny? Did I miss that?
Take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Salih?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes,
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
motion carries.
Item G, BSN Sports Corporate Sponsorship Program. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the board renews an agreement with BSN Corporate Sponsorship Program for the purchase and supply of Under Armour apparel and footwear along with any and all other equipment and apparel offered for sale by BSN for use by Strongsville High School and its athletic programs per the agreement found in Exhibit D. The term of this agreement commences 7/1/2020 and ends 6/30/2025. And just like the Under Armour, this is a renewal of the current agreement that expired.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? Denny, why don't we get you up here and you can help us understand why there are two contracts for what seems like the same thing.
Sure. So, first of all, thank you very much for letting me speak on this. So with the BSN, that is our primary vendor who we use for all of our sporting good needs. Whether that be uniforms, goals for soccer, basketball nets, soccer nets, whatever the case may be. Then BSN works hand in hand with Under Armour, Nike, and those different vendors in a all-school partnership deal, basically meaning that if we sign on with Under Armour or Nike or a big brand retailer, not only are we getting rebates from them, but we're also getting rebates from BSN. So we're getting double the rebates just for using BSN, as well as, you know, like an Under Armour type. So we get BSN rewards, which can be used for anything, you know, equipment needs, T-shirts, you know, basketballs, you know, whatever the case may be. And then the Under Armour is strictly just for apparel. So sweatshirts for the teams travel. You know, I know last year we used the Under Armour stuff for golf, polos for our golf team. For our tennis team, we use T-shirts or, you know, promo dollars for their uniforms. And then also, I mean, we get bombarded just, you know, with basket raffle items to donate. So this allows us to use some of those rewards to get Strongsville gear to, you know, our middle school programs for any financial, you know, fundraisers they may have. And then also BSN's been a huge partner with the athletic boosters as far as being a sponsor at their night at the races, the golf outing. So really we're getting double rewards for the price of one. So that's how I look at it.
Any questions for Denny? Take the roll.
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell,
Yes.
Mrs. Soe,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes, and the motion carries. I'll just take the opportunity to thank Denny for his leadership. We're in the middle of dealing with COVID-19 and trying to start sports at the same time, which we have to do a balancing act of safety and hopefully allowing our student athletes to have those opportunities. So thank you for your leadership and keep us safe and moving forward. Next on our agenda is our Assistant Superintendent's Report.
Yes.
Mrs. Pelko.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. So I did want to give an update into some funds that we've received from the state. I think it's a good time to give it. We're so focused on getting back to school and how that's going to look, and you know, some of those conversations are challenging. There's a lot more questions sometimes than answers. So kind of wanted to give a positive tonight. And something that obviously, I think if you know me, I'm very passionate about mental health and social emotional learning within our district. A lot of things that I do and work with the counselors and the team that we have here in the district. They do a phenomenal job. I don't want to discredit their work in any way, but I'm very excited and thrilled to announce that we're going to be adding some staff to our already exceptional staff, just to continue to support the overall health of all of our children. And so these funds come from the state of Ohio and the governor's budget, and he's been budgeting some funds towards districts to support the strategic plan that the state superintendent has rolled out, which supports the whole child. And so there's two different types of funds. The first one that we received was the prevention funds, and actually we don't actually get the money here, but it's allocated to our district for use. And what it is, it's an allotment given to us from Governor DeWine's budget, and what we do is we partner with the Cuyahoga County Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board, or Adams Board, if you've ever heard of them. And so Andy Trujillo, our Director of Student Services, has done a great job in not only filling out our self-assessment of where we are and what's needed, but he also secured partnered with another community partnership I'll share here in a second, and secured a social worker with those funds. And so we have just enough for that position in our district next year. And for our wellness funds, that's the second money that we're getting. And again, passing of House Bill 166 in July, Ohio has invested over $675 million towards this effort. And this was all pre-COVID that we were going to get this money. And again, it's just to support the academic achievement of students by helping to support their mental health. And so we received $175,000, 554 to be exact, and 88 cents. George, let me know the exact total today. And are slated to again receive $256,000 for next year. And these funds, correct me if I'm wrong, George, can carry over year to year if we don't use them. So we're being very judicious in how we're planning, and it's taken us a little bit of time to plan exactly what we need for the district. And we've looked at all kinds of information and data to kind of determine what we're going to use these for. And so what we have slated is through the Prevention Funds Partnership, we have partnered with Cleveland Christian Home, who has allocated one of their social workers, Miss Celia Joyce, and her role will be really prevention. And so although I've said we've done a great job as a district being preventative and trying to teach some of the skills and things that we want around, mental health. For example, at the elementary, we talk about, is this a big problem or a little problem? We talk about goal setting, and we try to help our students through classroom lessons, and that's the role of our counselors there. But what we really need is to assess more of a vertical alignment between the levels and to really decide what is needed and what levels of support are needed for our students. So the role of Celia is going to be kind of in the first month or two to kind of take an inventory of where we are, and I think it's very timely given the fact that we're going to have students returning from this pandemic. And, it makes me very nervous to hear stories that they may come back with depending on their situations that they've dealt with. Anywhere from just being alone and not being with their friends to anything a little bit more serious. And so I think it's very important that we have these people in place to help us with navigating those waters. And then through the Wellness Funds Partnership, we've partnered with our Educational Service Center. So all of these funds require a partnership with an outside agency, so that's why you see the partnerships there. And through that, we've hired Miss Kristen Shores, who's going to be a social worker. Both social workers will be housed at the high school, although both are for the district. So Kristen will be working more in depth with families, those families that may need some wraparound services or some more ongoing assistance. And so she'll work directly with our counselors and our psychologists to kind of help identify who needs the help. And again, it's a way to support our families and get them connected with outside services and agencies that we have within our community. And then we also have hired Mr. Samuel Lawrence, or for your approval this evening, Mr. Samuel Lawrence is on the agenda as a school counselor. So one of our goals of our 2020 plan was to really audit staff and see where we are. So when we looked at those staffing levels, we really decided that at the elementary level, there was more support needed, and thought, it really makes sense. At that foundational level, if we can provide more foundational skills for our students and help them gain those as they start, they'll have a better start as they move through adolescence and through the middle school and the high school. So Samuel Lawrence will be added to our elementary counseling staff. I believe we finalized the assignments, so he will be housed at Kinsner Elementary. And this is going to allow most of our elementary schools to have at least 5 to 4 days of constant counselor present in the building, where we didn't have that before. So I think it's going to be a great support for our kids. And then we also have partnered with Nancy Lowry and Associates. This has been an ongoing partnership that we've had for a few years now. She is a local psychologist. Her business is local in Strongsville. She sees many of our students already. But what this has allowed is to bring therapists into school so that students can get counseling during the school day, because it's difficult to get appointments and people are busy with their schedules. And so when kids can get the help they need directly during the school day, that helps. But what we've done with the wellness money is we found that there are students that don't have insurance. So the way it works is they bill the insurance. We don't pay anything for Nancy Lowry, never have. They bill students through their insurance, but what we found is there are students and families that don't have insurance. And so we weren't able to cover those students. And so through these wellness dollars, and we've already started this year, families that aren't covered, we worked out what that would cost, and the wellness dollars are supporting them. It is also supporting, we had slated some professional development to happen. That didn't happen due to the pandemic, but to have those therapists provide some additional, parent sessions and nights. So we'll be looking to do that next year. So just again, wanted to give you an update on how we are acquiring extra staff. And again, I think it's just so important to have it now, especially now, because I think we're going to see a rise in kids that may just want to talk to somebody and get through whatever it is they're feeling. So any questions about that? Okay. Would you like me to continue with the report, Mr. Micka?
Please do.
Okay. Okay, under A1, I have the resolution to rescind prohibition of use of district premises. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education rescinds previous board action for prohibition of use of district premises taken at the April 5th, 2018 regular board meeting work session, item 6.A.1.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Salee. Any discussion? So I will share that, we had a previous action, like the motion says on April 5th, to protect the interests of our district. This is part and parcel with that protection, and we have assurances from the people involved, along with Mr. Breckner, that we can have a good relationship moving forward. So there's no reason I can't support that. Hearing no other discussion, take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes,
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
and the motion carries. You may continue.
Thank you. Under A2, we have contingency calendar. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3317.01B, the following dates be approved as contingency in the event that days must be made up as a result of weather or other calamity. And these dates are as follows: June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd, June 4th, and June 7th, all of 2021. Continuing with the report, under business services, we have a recommendation for a vendor-managed supply program. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into agreement between Strongsville City Schools and ALCO for the vendor-managed supply program for one fiscal year in the amount of $41,000 as stated in the exhibit. Funding to be from the general fund supplies materials for custodial, and this does require a vote.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? So this is the second year we've done that. It worked really well the first time, and it means we don't have to worry about individual ordering of everything from cleanser to cleaning solution for the floors, et cetera. And I have a distinct feeling we'll be ordering a lot more than we usually do this year. Would you take the roll?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries.
Under B2, for your consideration, we have the following gifts. The district received an anonymous gift of $17 to be applied to the account of a student in need. K. William Burdick, through KWIB LLC, made the following donations of COVID-19 supplies on behalf of the Strongsville Instrumental Music Boosters, otherwise known as SIM. Strongsville High School received 12 infrared thermometers valued at $120 per unit for a total donation of $1,440. Strongsville High School Music Department received 6 infrared thermometers for marching band and orchestra, 1 case ear loop masks for music students, and 4 cases of exam gloves to be dispersed between the high school and middle school. The total value of these donations is $2,440.
And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board and the district, but that's another example of the great things that happen in Strongsville. We all know we have to be prepared for the pandemic, and I'm not surprised that the instrumental music boosters are getting ahead of the game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate their consideration in this donation. Continuing under curriculum this evening,
Ms.
under
Falco.
C1.
We have the addendum for business services.
Yes, I do. Thank you, George. So one other item under business services, under B3, purchase of an electrostatic sprayers. This will directly be purchased through monies through our CARES fund and the general fund. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the purchase of 8 electrostatic sprayers and 5 handheld electrostatic sprayers to be purchased from the Home Depot Pro Supply Works at a cost of $31,999.87. The sprayers will be used to disinfect and sanitize the buildings and vehicles within the district. Funding to be $31,485.80 from the CARES Act and $514.07 from the general fund. And, I spoke with Mr. Bruckner, just to give a little bit of information here, that we already have some in the district. I think we already have 3. And so this will give us now 11, and 2 will be at the high school, 2 at the middle school. All the elementaries will have one, and then I think 1 for here. And again, what this does is it just sprays surfaces to disinfect them. It's not actually cleaning them, but it's disinfecting anything that would fall. And then the handheld ones would be used for transportation.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Salee. Any discussion? So I did go online because I wanted to see the machines, and these are atomizers, but they're industrial level atomizers. And again, we are preparing to make sure that we can responsibly restart education, and this will be the kind of thing that we can use on a nightly basis and be able to efficiently disinfect or protect all our surfaces with our custodial staff. So thanks to Steve for getting a jump on this. Any other discussion? Take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Okay, now moving under curriculum, under C. Under C1, we have the clinical education agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the clinical education agreement between the University of Akron and Strongsville City School District be approved as presented, and that is found in Exhibit F. Under C2, a school counseling internship. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following students shall be placed for the purpose of a school counseling internship. Madison, I think it's Jabaksic, we'll go with that, will be placed at Strongsville Middle School, assigned to Heather Koblentz from August 24th through December 11th. And then at Strongsville High School, assigned to Megan Sizlowski from January 11th to May 2nd. And she is a student at Akron University. Under C3, student teacher placement, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following student teacher shall be placed. Brian Tyson will be placed at Strongsville High School and Strongsville Middle School, assigned to Brian King from August 24th through December 10th, and he is a student at the Akron University. Continuing under student services this evening, under D1, Solutions Behavioral Consulting, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into agreement with Solutions Behavioral Consulting, for the 2021 school year to provide consultation for students and consultation and training for staff in the area of behavioral intervention services as shown in the exhibit, and that is Exhibit G. Continuing under D2, Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into agreement with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio to implement positive education program services for the 2021 school year as shown in the exhibit, that is Exhibit H. Continuing D3, Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Strongsville Board of Education enters into a contract with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for admission of students for visual, audiology, and/or hearing impaired services for the 2021 school year as shown in Exhibit I. D4, United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Cleveland, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Strongsville Board of Education enters into the agreement with the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Cleveland Incorporated for the special education and related services for placement of a student with disabilities during the 2021 school year for a total amount of $92,138 per the attached Exhibit J. Under D5, the McKeon Education Group, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into agreement with the McKeon Education Group Incorporated for the 2021 school year to provide reading remedial tutors and intervention service for St. Joseph and John Interparochial School under auxiliary funding administered to the approved non-public schools by local districts. The cost for direct therapy to school-aged students is $148,578, and then also $61,500 for two full-time tutors, $25,578 for a part-time intervention specialist, as shown in Exhibit K. Under D6, PSI Affiliates and Associates, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters an agreement with PSI Affiliates, PSI Associates for the 2021 school year to provide nursing, speech therapy, psychological, and intervention services for St. Joseph and John Interparochial Schools under auxiliary funding administered to approved non-public schools by local districts. The cost for direct therapy to school-age students is $196,605. We have costs there for a health aide, part-time registered nurse, speech-language pathologist, school psychologist, intervention specialist, and another intervention specialist per Exhibit L.
And
Under
while
D-
you're taking a breath, I will,
Okay, thank you.
I will just jump in and say that, 5 and 6 are from 401 auxiliary services. They're not out of our general fund. We are the agent or the steward for those funds to St. Joseph and John School. And we act as that agent and steward and make sure that the money gets where it needs to go for the purposes intended.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for the break. Under D7, McKeon Education Group, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into an agreement with McKeon Education Group for the 2021 school year in the amount of $35,000 for one part-time intervention specialist to service students with disabilities attending St. Joseph and John Interparochial School per Exhibit M. Under D8, PSI Affiliates and Associates, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into an agreement with PSI Affiliates and Associates in the amount of $5,552.03 for speech-language pathologist service to service students at St. Joseph and John Interparochial School per the Exhibit N. And Go ahead.
Just to add in, same with the 7 and 8, same thing that held with the previous two, but rather auxiliary funds. We receive federal IDEA 6B funds for special education, and there's a portion of that is directed to non-public schools. So these contracts come out of that portion for the non-publics.
There you go. Thank you, George. And finally, under Student Services, under D9, PSI Affiliates and PSI Associates, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into an agreement with PSI Affiliates and Associates, Inc., in the amount of $65,482.20 for social worker services to service students at Strongsville City Schools district-wide per the attached Exhibit O. And that concludes the report for Student Services.
Any questions? Steve, Aaron, and Andy owe you
Yeah.
payback.
Yeah. No problem. Okay. Under Human Resources this evening, under 8E, 1, we have the resignation of an administrative staff member. Our principal to Strongsville Middle School, Adam Marino, has resigned. I do just want to say that I think I hired Adam 8 years ago to be my assistant principal, and when it was Center Middle School. Adam has done a phenomenal job for our district. We wish him nothing but the best. He's done a tremendous amount of work here and has truly been gone above and beyond, not only being an assistant principal and a principal, but has been involved in many district initiatives as well. So I appreciate his leadership, I appreciate his partnership, and we wish him all the best in his new position. Under E2, we have the appointment of an administrative staff member. I'd like to announce that Jessica Boytum is the next middle school principal for Strongsville Middle School upon your approval. I just want to share, Jessica's here in the audience this evening, and we're going to hear from her in just a minute, but I just want to share that we had over, I believe, if memory serves, over 80 applicants that applied. I think Aaron and Cameron and I screened about 20 of them, and then brought back about 4 for a second round interview with a larger committee. And, Jessica just did a phenomenal job throughout all 3 rounds. And then she came in for a 3rd round with Cameron and me. And I mean, we were nervous because of the late resignation and who we would get, but we got really lucky and we just hired a rock star in Jessica. So she's already been texting me and communicating, and I think she plans to even start tomorrow working right after her approval this evening. But just a little bit about Jessica. Her husband Biagio is here in the audience with her, supporting her. Jessica is currently the associate principal at Claggett Middle School in Medina. Prior to that, she was a middle school assistant principal in Brunswick for 6 years and a high school English language arts teacher there before she took on an administrative role. She does reside in Strongsville. I think they're moving next week into another home. They're moving from one home in Strongsville to another home in Strongsville, where she obviously resides with her husband Biagio and her 3 children. You know, I had the privilege of calling all of her references, and you know, I always say, like, is there anything that we need to know about Jessica before, you know, anything I need to know to help her, support her and manage her? And all throughout, it just, you know, was just so many wonderful comments that she already walks the walk and talks the talk of a principal. And so I'm just thrilled to have her. She has a passion for students, a passion for instruction. Her leadership in multi-tiered systems of support for our students that may need extra support, also through positive behavior intervention support. So the things that she's done at our other schools, I'm just excited because I know she's going to be bringing all of those ideas and things to our middle school. And you know, we have a wonderful staff at the middle school, and I just know that she's going to be a great partner with Jamie and Tina, who are already there, and all the staff and teachers. So welcome, Jessica, to Strongsville City Schools, and if you'd like, you can share a few words.
Good evening. I want to thank Dr. Ryba and Mrs. Pelko and the Strongsville staff and all of you and the board for considering me for this position. I'm extremely excited to work in Strongsville, and for this position, I'm excited for the opportunity and grateful for the experiences that it's already brought and going to bring to me and my family. And I'm eager for the school year to start and to work with the staff and the community in this capacity. And again, thank you very much for having me tonight and to having me aboard. So thank you so much.
So, and Jessica, I just on behalf of the board want to welcome you aboard. We're really excited to have you. We've heard great things. One of the things I noticed when we were reviewing your materials is you talked about servant leadership. This is your goal and your principle, and that resonates very well with us. So we're excited to have you on board. I know there's a lot of middle schoolers that are excited to meet their new principal, so that's great. And we have a tradition where each board member asks a pointed question of the principal. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. So hopefully that.
But look, she was ready. She was ready to do it. That's great.
So you passed the test.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
But we're excited to have you aboard, and it's nice that you're a Strongsville resident. And I will comment. I think it says a lot about our district that we had 80 people apply. That of those 80, we invested the time to look at 20 of them, which meant we had 20 capable candidates. Not that all 80 weren't capable, but interviewing 80 would be tough. But it's a great, a nice testament for our school district that we're getting qualified candidates, that they want to come here, and congratulations on being the one. There are at least 79 who think we made the wrong decision, but too bad for them. Congratulations and good luck. And if you ever need anything from the board, please let us know.
Thank you. And Jessica and Biagio, I know you have small children waiting, although they did say this is date night for them. So they may want to stay, but please feel free. You can go if you'd like to. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Continuing under E1, appointments for certificated staff members, appointments for non-certificated staff, appointment for extended school year staff, appointments for non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. And Mr. Micko, I do need to make a change from the floor. We had a late change in assistant marching band director for SHS. So Sheila O'Connor actually resigned before she accepted and then had to resign, unfortunately. So we do have a replacement for her. That is Claire Jarnusik, I believe. So we're going to take out Sheila O'Connor there and add in Claire Jarnusik.
Got it.
Thank you. Continuing, appointments for certificated supplemented contracts prorated. And appointments for non-certificated supplemental contracts prorated. Appointment for a non-certificated trainer. And I just want to, Evelyn Diesner under here, she used to be our district athletic secretary, and she has graciously agreed to come back and help train our new one, and she's just been phenomenal. They've been working incredibly hard in Denny's office, so I just want to publicly thank her because she did retire, and she came back out of retirement to help us out, and I think it's going to be a great start, especially now with trying to organize everything for athletics, that it'll be great. So thank you again, Evelyn. Under E3, changes in hours for non-certificated staff. E4, changes in hours for non-certificated staff. Continuing under E5, stipends for technology coaches. And I apologize, I do need to make one more change here. Leanne Ambrosiak should say Whitney Elementary. We got her right on the first one, but this one, I don't know. It shouldn't be Chapman, she's at Whitney. Under E6, medical leave for certificated staff, medical leave for a non-certificated staff. Under E7, we have unpaid leaves for non-certificated staff. And finally, we have E8, we have a settlement agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that to resolve an outstanding legal dispute involving a non-teaching employee originating on November 25th, 2019, the Board of Education hereby authorizes and enters into a mediation settlement agreement and release, the terms of which have been reduced to writing and are incorporated herein by reference having been provided to the board for review and consideration. The board hereby directs that its superintendent and treasurer sign the referenced agreements on the board's behalf, and it authorizes them to do all things necessary to accomplish the objective of this resolution, and this does require a separate vote.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Salee. Any discussion? So all the board members have reviewed the resolution, and George, you may take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Solie?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes,
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
and the motion carries. Next on our, oh, thank you very much. You set a high standard that we compare everyone to.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next on our agenda is our consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent calendar at this point means all items on the agenda with asterisks are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board requests otherwise. Do I have any requests? Hearing none, I will, for the record, highlight on page 10, Sheila O'Connor is being removed, and in her place, Claire Jarnusik. And on page 13, E5, Leanne Ambrosiak, close enough?
Ambrosiak. Yeah.
Ambrosiak is not assigned to Chapman, she is assigned to Whitney, and that will quell everybody wondering why there are two people at Chapman and none at Whitney, so we fixed that. Any other requests? Hearing none, a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Salee. Any discussion? Take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Solie?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda, we have Mrs. Buckner Salee here, bringing us to full strength, so we needed to juggle some of our liaison and committee assignments, and we have those. Repeating again, at the last meeting, Michelle graciously accepted the challenge of being our Polaris School Career Center board rep. For City Council, our liaisons will be Michelle and Laura. For Strongsville Education, the liaisons will be Laura and myself, Richard. For Strongsville PTA, we have Sherry Buckner, recognizing that Laura is very involved in the PTA and will also be part of those meetings, but our liaison will officially be Sherry, so thank you very much. OSBA Student Achievement Liaison will be myself and Sherry. Finance Committee is going to be Seth and Sherry. Policy Committee is Michelle and myself. We expected a hard, long fight for that, but nobody decided to fight us for those positions, so we get to remain on Policy Committee. Facilities Committee is Laura and Sherry, and Business Advisory Council is Sherry and Seth. And I will give you the copy, George, so Shelley can put it into the record properly.
Rich.
Or Dawn.
Dawn.
Do you have a question?
Yes, can you repeat, sorry, I haven't talked the whole meeting. Can you repeat the student achievement liaison for me, please?
No, I messed that up, didn't I?
Yeah, unless
me.
it was different from what you told me.
No, yeah, no, I think I blinked my eyes. Student achievement is Seth.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Miko, to that point too, can you repeat the PTA council
PTA council is Sherry Buckner,
And facilities.
and Laura, or just Sherry?
just Sherry.
Okay.
I just want, Laura is an active participant, so
Okay.
she will continue to be an active participant, but the liaison is Sherry.
Facilities is Sherry. Facilities.
Facilities
So-
is Laura and Sherry.
So Sherry's on finance, facilities, and business advisory. Do I have that right?
Sherry.
Yes.
This doesn't, is that, I think that's what you said.
It is what I said.
Yes.
Is that what you
Okay.
meant?
It is what I meant. You're making me double guess, second guess myself. So finance is Seth and Sherry.
Yep.
Policy is Michelle and myself.
Yes.
Facilities is Laura and Sherry. Business Advisory Council is Sherry and Seth. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Are you sure? Second?
Who's on first? Yes, second. What am I supposed to do? I got-
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? Please say no. George, take the roll.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes, motion carries. And we now go to Assistant Superintendent's timely information.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. So just a few things that I wanted to update the community on. Dr. Ryba's community conversation from the July 7th, I believe, is posted on our website. I know he answered a lot of questions that community members did submit. So if you missed it, please, you can go there and view it in its entirety. He is planning on returning from vacation and doing another community conversation on Tuesday, July 21st at 4:00 p.m. Again, if you just go to our website, you can, just click on the live stream there. And in this one, he is planning on announcing the final recommendation on how we will begin the school year, and recommend how the first day of school, how that's going to be run and everything like that. So I just, personally, from being on several of these committees, I can't thank our communities, our community members that are on it, our teachers that are on it, our staff that are on it, that are seeking information from other community members and people within our community. The feedback that we are getting, although it's kind of all over the place and we kind of have to sift through it all, it's so valuable to hear what's important to people. And we're getting a lot of good ideas and good thoughts and things that we haven't thought of. So keep the information coming, keep the emails coming. Don't feel like you're bothering us, because this is what we need to do. So I just want to thank everybody out there that's working incredibly hard to help us with all of these difficult decisions, because they are difficult decisions. On Tuesday, August 4th, then, at 4:00 will be the next one. And then, I know that there are a lot of comprehensive plans that districts are beginning to share. I was on a call last week and then today with area superintendents around Northeast Ohio, and we kind of all said, when are you sharing yours? When are you sharing yours? And so they're all coming out within the next several weeks. So we're on it. Ours will be shared as well. So August 4th is the time frame for that. So we, again, want our families to know what the plan is on July 21st, because I know that's important to families. But then on August 4th, the whole comprehensive plan will be shared, and you can read all of the details, from sanitization to how we're going to run transportation, to all of those things will be included there. And so again, they're streamed live on SCS TV, found under technology of the district's website, and all of the other past ones are there as well. So I just wanted to please tune in, and if you can't, they'll always be there for you to watch.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Next is Board of Education Other. Does anybody have any other? No. What I do want to share, because obviously the school district's preparation and response to the COVID-19 pandemic is on everyone's mind. And although we're still working through our final recommendations, it is the single thing that occupies all our minds, and our discussions and our conversations amongst ourselves as a team, along with our friends and family. So I did want to share a few comments with the community at large to try to frame how the board is approaching this and how the larger administration team is approaching our planning. And so I wanted to just start with, when the pandemic started, we were ordered to have a shutdown, and we sheltered in place. And we're now 3 months away from that. But when that happened, we had this idea of essential industries. And certain industries were allowed to continue. They were required to continue. We still expected the electricity to work. We still expected the water to work. We definitely needed our cable TV and our internet and our cell phones to work. I can't imagine what it would have been like if we didn't have those tools. But all of those things were determined to be essential. Grocery stores were determined to be essential, and the people involved in those industries continued to work as safely as possible. So we come forward, and it is the board's opinion that education is just as an essential industry. It's not an industry per se, but it is just as essential. And so we need to balance safety. We need to balance the issues and the concerns with COVID-19 with our best efforts for education. And our best efforts are delivered primarily if we have all our students in school 5 days a week. So that's our goal. Our goal starts there. That's where all our reasoning comes from. One of the issues that we had been grappling with is that 6-foot distance, and whether that would be a requirement, whether it would be mandatory, or how that guideline would be brought down. So that guideline has been released by the state, and in conjunction with guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics, it is safe, it is considered at this point in time safe to reduce that 6-foot distance with other precautions in place. So for us as a district, we have determined that we can safely have a 5-foot minimum distance throughout our schools. And so we're going to use that as our guideline or as our policy. But the consequence of that is we are seriously looking at what other protections are going to be in place. And that means facial coverings, that means face shields, that means extra cleaning like we did on our agenda today to get the equipment for that. That means asking our parents to do temperature checks before their students come to school, to do an assessment of other symptoms so that we work together as a team to prevent infection as much as possible. Why are we doing all of that? Part of it is because we want our students to be safe. Part of it is to have a strategy so that if and when someone has an infection, we have a response to it. We're not going to be able to make those decisions in a vacuum. We will have to go to the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and explain what happened, and they're going to ask, well, what are your plans? What have you done? And if we would say, well, we've thrown caution to the wind, they're going to say, well, we're going to shut you all down. If we say we have all of these plans that we're working on, that our work groups have been working on, they'll be able to say, well, what is a reasonable response, whether it be one student in quarantine, whether it be one adult in quarantine, whether it be a small group. But it allows us to work towards our goal of having all of our students back in school. So we're going to balance whether it's masks, whether it's face shields, whether it's all of those things, and we're going to look at what's reasonable for all of our students. And we're making those decisions now. As a board, as an administrative team, we respect parents' decisions. You need to decide what's best for your children and your circumstances. So if a parent looks at their circumstances and has extra concerns, they should look at our SOLO, Strongsville Online Option, which
Learning
is
option.
Learning.
Learning option.
Strongsville Online Learning Option, which may be appropriate for some students, may be appropriate for some parents, and we'll work together to have those conversations to determine what's best for each student and each student's families. But we also expect and we know we're going to get our parents' cooperation. The goal is our best efforts at balancing that, bringing students back and staying safe at the same time. So some of those things would be, like I discussed before, doing that temperature and symptom check. And if your student or your child has any of those symptoms, we expect parents to keep that child home. It could be, we have a 1 mile limit for busing. Busing is a serious concern. Parents that are 1.1 miles and can volunteer to walk their children for the duration to school, those are the kinds of things we're going to be looking for. Parents who are working from home and can volunteer to drive their students, balancing, we don't want Strongsville Middle School everywhere, but we're going to balance those things. But if we can reduce the density on our buses, that's a positive. That's a good way for us to respond to this coronavirus. One of the other messages I wanted to share was there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion, whether it's in kitchens, whether it's in our work groups or whatever, on compliance. Who's going to enforce things, et cetera. We have our students, and they want to do the best job they can as students. So we have experts in our schools that can help our students follow the rules when we decide them. And they happen to be the teachers and the staff that we already have there. They're really good at making sure students learn what the expectations are and how to stay safe. And whatever those rules are, whatever those protections we put into place, whether it's masks, whether it's face shields, whether it's adjusting lunches, our staff are the ones who are going to help us do a great job of doing that. And it's not going to be a game of, well, what if someone's mask falls off? Well, it's no different than if any other protection or any other behavior we do in school. We have our teachers, we have our staff, and they are experts at helping our students do well. And we will do well, and we can do this. And the last message I want to share is we're all watching the news. We're all watching what's happening in the county, what's happening in the state, what's happening in the country, and we all have those concerns. We're learning that our actions have consequences, and our actions that we take for ourselves, if we're cavalier about things, are going to have disastrous consequences for everyone. So this is a chance where the community, the parents, the students are all going to be expected to work together. We can do this, we can do it safely, and we can do this for our children, and we will pivot. Right now our goal is to have all our students back in school, but we've already announced, and our work groups are working through all those different plans, that if we have to do blended, we can do blended. If we have to do remote learning 2.0, we can do it, and do it better than we did when it was the shock treatment for the last part of the year. But I did want to share that with the community so you know where the board's thinking is and how we approach this. Our goal is to balance protecting our students' health and safety with protecting their education. And we know those are fighting each other right now, and we're going to make those best decisions we can. And we know we'll have our parents and our community supporting us on that at the same time. With that said, I think I've spoken enough. Does anyone else have anything they want to reinforce? Okay, hearing none. Meeting notification. A regular Board of Education meeting work session will be held Thursday, August 6th at 7 p.m. in this room. And then our next regular Board of Education will be August 20th, 7 p.m. in this room. I recommend everybody watch, was it July 21st at 4 p.m.? Mm-hmm. July 21st, that will be our first pass at giving out information on what the school year is going to look like. We also, as a board, will be working on policy, and we'll be doing that as a committee of the whole to frame the rules of the road, so to speak. But we look forward to working through these issues, and we look forward to the work groups and the parents and everybody working together to be able to do this safely. We do have need for executive session on the topic of...
To consider the discipline of a public employee or official.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? Hearing none, take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Solis?
Yes.
And Mr. Miko?
Yes. And we will enter into executive session at 8:14. We have no expectation for further business, so thank you very much, and have a good evening.